Hello and welcome to News Tonight. My name is Rodan Bonzi. On sign language, Mugalu Muhammad. Let's start with our top stories. Education and Sports Ministry strides towards quality education. Veterans set to assemble heavy solar panels. Also, the civil society organizations task Electoral Commission to present electoral reforms. While African aviation regulators meet in Kampala. And in sports, Ugandans fail qualifiers as World Tennis Tour continues. President Yoweri Museveni has received a special message from the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Mr. Abiy Ahmed. The message was delivered today by the Ethiopian Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Demeke Mekonnen, at State House Entebbe. President Museveni and his guests discussed matters of mutual interest between Ethiopia and Uganda. The President gifted the Deputy Prime Minister with books about the liberation of Uganda and her beauty. Our government has provided 29 billion Uganda shillings in the 2019-20 financial year budget to cater for rollout activities of the lower secondary school curriculum, whose review is complete. While giving the account of the commitments for the Ministry of Education and Sports sector in the NRM Manifesto 2016-2021, the Minister for Education and Sports, Mrs. Janet Museveni, said the curriculum is founded on competence-based learning to prepare learners for the 21st century world of work.
Ministry of Education and Sports has opened up the NRM Manifesto Week by being the first sector to present the progress on commitments in the NRM Presidential Manifesto 2016-2021. On its commitment of construction and provision of at least one public primary school per parish, the ministry constructed 256 new classrooms in 46 districts. Due to budgetary limitations, the ministry has not been able to grant aid any primary schools since July 2016, but have identified 23 primary schools for grant aiding in financial year 2019-20. There is a challenge of dilapidation and deterioration of infrastructure. The Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, says the wage bill for primary school teachers has increased since financial year 2015-16 and is estimated to grow to 921.702 billion in 2019-20.
The bill for primary school teachers has increased by Uganda shillings 239.226 billion from Uganda shillings 779.450 billion. In financial year 2015-16 to Uganda shillings 918.676 billion in financial year 2018-2019. The entry monthly salary for a primary school head teacher is Uganda shillings 588,359, whereas a grade 3 teacher receives Uganda shillings 355,000 per month. Before the enhancement, the average salary for a primary school teacher was Uganda shillings 280,000.
Under the Uganda Intergovernment Fiscal Transfers for Results Program, 117 sub-counties without secondary schools received funds in financial year 2018-19 to construct new seed schools, and in addition, 115 new seed secondary schools shall be constructed starting financial year 2020-21. However, there are still 428 sub-counties, town councils and divisions without public secondary schools as of March 2019. The type of infrastructure for a secondary school government plans to construct is estimated at 2 billion shillings or below.
About 2 billion, but I also said I think it's going down because we have received costs of those who have quoted lower, and we're trying to make sure that it will therefore go lower, because we now know that we can put together all those facilities and still do it with a lower cost, not necessarily the 2 billion.
Government has invested heavily in the Directorate of Education Standards, responsible for inspection, and the local government inspection grants, adapted to integrated ICT solutions into inspection system and motorcycles, hence improvement in coordination and teacher attendance from 70% in 2015 to 85% in 2018. The ministry, after realizing that the commitment of providing a technical or vocational institute per constituency could not be achieved in medium terms, has prioritized operationalization of existing BTVET institutions.
We need to market BTVET so that these institutions have learners. They do not have learners. We are talking about accreditation. We are talking about equipment. They do not have the equipment required, for people to have the competence-based training which we are talking about. So instead of creating more technical institutes, we feel it's very logical that we equip these technical institutes that will have more learners.
Meanwhile, although the ministry conducted 6 weeks long nationwide sensitization campaign about feeding children in schools, a role for parents and guardians, the levels of community participation in education is still low. I'm Nafka Farida and Sana Anet reporting in Kampala.
So, civil society organizations have asked the Electoral Commission to start demarcation of polling boundaries early enough to bridge gaps of any kind of electoral inconsistencies during the forthcoming elections. Executive Director of Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy in Uganda, Richard Sewachirianga, says the delays are most likely to affect the electoral process and the institution itself. This was during an engagement in election symposium in Entebbe.
In February, Parliament gave the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs an ultimatum of 2 months to present electoral reforms for the forthcoming elections. This followed delays by the Ministry to present the reforms to Parliament for amendment. However, Minister of Justice requested for 6 months to present the reforms, citing insufficiency of time in 2 months. Although the Ministry was supposed to present the reforms to Parliament by April, it has since remained silent on the way forward. It's on this note that civil society organizations want the Electoral Commission to start demarcating polling boundaries for the forthcoming elections.
Why? Because it determines where voters are supposed to be either voting from or which constituencies they are supposed to reside in for electoral purposes.
We all know that the legitimacy of a leader depends on how they get elected.
During an electoral dialogue in Entebbe, civil society says such delays will most likely fuel party politics, political fights, and hostage of some individuals. They also urge that government help simplify on the process of getting national identity cards, especially for the few disadvantaged Ugandans.
It's very important for Ugandans to register themselves to get the national ID. Because if you don't have a national ID, then you cannot be able to vote.
Electoral reform is the change in electoral system to improve public interest expressed in election results, such as voting system that may require proportional representation. There are also rules about political parties, eligibility to vote, electoral constituencies, and election district borders, among others. Susan Naonga and Kenneth Tanaba.
Ministry of Defense in charge of veterans has received consignments from the Japan's Ek Shogi Company Limited for the establishment of an automobile assembling plant in Uganda. This follows the 2017 Memorandum of Understanding between the two parties for appropriate resettlement structures and rehabilitation of veterans to productive civilians.
In 2017, Minister of Defence in charge of Veteran Affairs signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the Ikshogi Company Limited. In the MOU were issues including the establishment of structures to help in the productive resettlement of veterans and the rehabilitation of war-affected persons. A solar panel assembling and battery manufacturing plant was to be established to better the welfare of veterans. While delivering the consignment of equipment for the plant, Ikshogi Company Limited also delivered 100 sewing machines, ambulances and firefighting equipment to the ministry.
We signed 2 MOUs. One is for the solar pumps and solar panels. They are going to employ veterans to assemble solar panels and save the environment from burning charcoal, and also making life of the soldiers and veterans very simple.
Minister in charge of Veteran Affairs, Bright Ramirama, says the establishment of the assembling plant will help boost veteran welfare and reintegrate them to the civilian life.
We are going to put up a rehabilitation center for those who are casualties of war and those who are mentally challenged, and they have promised to give us support.
On a similar note, the ministry is in the final arrangements with the Katayagi Corporation of Japan to establish a private hospital in Uganda. Special advisor of the Japan Cabinet, Professor Isao Lijima, told the ministry that the initiative was a request from the Japan doctors to extend the health service to Uganda.
They also intend to put up a private hospital, and I think we shall be partnership with NEC. NEC is the National Enterprise Corporation. This will be treating all people in the region, because it will be a high-level hospital.
The solar assembling plant and battery manufacturing by the veterans is, however, expected to kick off in a few months. Susan Naonga and Sudat Kaye.
The General Court Marshal presiding at Machinde has convicted the patron of Boda 2010, Haji Abdallah Chitata, and his bodyguard Ngobi Suwali on 2 counts of unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition.
On 13th March 2018, the 13 accused in the case of unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition appeared before the General Court Marshal to be charged with their offences. Among those was the patron of Boda 2010, Haji Abdullah Chitata, Detective Ngobi Sowali, Chibirige Joel, Senfuka Masha, Sebata Hassan, Sevandike John, Mugema Hussein, Bwanika Fred, Chiromu Joni Amon, Kayondo Jonathan, Sengabo Hassan, and Semongere Sunday, but they all entered a plea of not guilty. This morning, the General Court Marshal sitting at Machinde convicted the patron of Boda 2010, Haji Abdullah Chitata, and his bodyguard, Detective Ngobi Sowali, on 2 counts of unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition.
Haji Chitata Abdallah is found guilty of offence of unlawful possession of firearms contrary to Section 3, Subsection 1, Subsection 2, Para A of the Firearms Act, Cap 299, as charged in count 3, and is hereby convicted of the offence. 4.
However, court has acquitted the 8 co-accused, Amon Tunomjoni, John Sebandike, Fred Wanika, Hassan Sebata, Masha Senfuka, Hussein Mugema, Ibrahim Sekaja, and Joel Chibirige.
A2 Kibirige Joel, A3 Senfuka Matia, A4 Sebata Hassan, A5 Sebandeke John, A6 Mugema Hussein, A7 Bwanika Fred, A8 Tunomujuni Amon, and A10 Sekaja Ibrahim are hereby acquitted of the charges of unlawful possession of military stores, contrary to Section 16.
The presiding State Counsel, Lieutenant Colonel Raphael Mugisha, has prayed court to give the 2 convicts custodian sentence, which was objected to by the Defence Counsel.
And each count carries a maximum sentence of 10 years. Also, Ngobi Sowal has been found guilty of 2 counts.
I have been so obedient during the whole trial and in the circumstance, my Lord, and the honorable members of this panel. the circumstance of the above.
Chitata is guilty of illegal possession of a golden pistol with its ammunition, while Ngobi is guilty of unlawful possession of a submachine gun which was fully loaded with ammunition. The two convicted suspects, Haji Abdullah Chitata and his bodyguard, Ngobi Sowali, and the acquitted 8 have been on remand since January 2018, following their arrest from Rubaga Division.
Abantu 8 tusobodde okubanunula tusobole okulwana mu mateeka tulabe nga tununula n'abantu baffe ababiri kooti beesingisiza omusango.
Court martial is due to sentence the two convicted persons tomorrow, the 14th of May 2019. This report was compiled by Deborah Namamonde for UBC TV.
The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development has shared her performance as per the NRM Manifesto Week program, indicating over 70% mark, as evidenced by the increased power generation and rural access to electrification. The line minister, Engineer Irene Muloni, says though the ministry has registered this grade, issues like land acquisition and public vandalism of infrastructure continue to undermine its good performance.
Were completed and submitted to us.
Minister of Energy and Mineral Development has accordingly shared her performance since the beginning of term, showing a rising graph. On the task to ensure increased rural access to electricity, the line ministry under the recently launched 2018 free connection policy has registered a great performance with over 92,000 free connections. Even with this performance, the ministry is still determined to achieve a 300,000 free electricity connections across the country annually.
Under this policy, government will subsidize fully the cost of electricity connection materials. This will enable citizens that are ready for electricity consumption to access a free electricity connection. Here, what the citizens have to do is wire their houses and apply to the operator who is serving them in their area to come and inspect the wiring to make sure it is safe. And once that is done, then the NRM government extends a connection to your premises so that you're able to pay for the electricity that you consume. Even the prepaid meter, which is commonly known as Yaka, is installed at your premises free of charge.
Minister Muloni is, however, cognizant of the fact that the unit cost of electricity is high, though she is quick to blame it on the excess power that Uganda is yet to get market for.
Our tariffs or our unit cost of electricity is high because we are paying for the excess. You and me and the industries that are working, we are the ones paying for that excess. So the more people or the more factories that join the consuming, sector, the less the unit cost of electricity will come down.
It was at this point that Minister Muloni revealed plans to level the ground for everyone without limitation. However, the journey has not been entirely smooth, citing hardships that government goes through before acquiring land for development. Minister for Energy and Mineral Development Irene Muloni called for fast passing of the land bill with a hope that it will check on the exorbitant prices individuals levy, a habit she says has frustrated many projects.
We've suffered, many projects here have suffered delays. We would be miles away, Looking at these achievements, one can smile, but we would even laugh louder if we were not challenged by delays in acquiring land. We would have moved really miles ahead of us. So it's a big challenge and it affects my entire sector.
As if that is not enough, Ugandans have also reportedly mastered the vice of vandalizing power infrastructure.
Last year, on the line from Jinja up to Lugogo. They brought down a whole 5 towers. 5 of them, they brought them onto the ground. And when you trace and you track to find out the purpose of it, is because they want to use the material for manufacturing saucepans, really. And it cost government, through the transmission company, a whopping 1.2 billion to restore those towers. It's an embarrassment because I can't believe that a patriotic Ugandan can do that. So we need to sensitize our people.
Already, Cabinet approved the mining and mineral policy, and soon government will come up with a bill that is expected to guide the country on how to consolidate but also harness gains in the sector. Dorcas Kimono, UBC TV News.
National Animal Genetic Resources Center and Data Bank has extended income-generating projects to disadvantaged people living in the district of Koboko, northern Uganda. The center's executive director, Dr. Charles Lagu, says the gesture is part of the initiative to diversify livestock farming across the country. He said this during the project launch in Koboko with improved breeds of chicken and goats, targeting the elderly, youth, women and persons living with disabilities.
Koboko district in the West Nile sub-region of northern Uganda is the latest to benefit from this livestock project. It has already been piloted in other districts of Masaka, Isingiro, Moyo and Apache, with the hope of rolling it to other parts of the country. But why is the emphasis on goats?
The rationale about goats is that they have a shorter gestation period, and therefore if you improve the quality of the stock you have indigenous, then you can quickly sell them to improve household income. This in essence will also be rolled to cover the whole country, but from the perspective that good genetics play an important role in improving household income.
Acquired from Ruhengeri farm in western Uganda, these goats are part of the process to revitalize all government ranches across the country.
We are working with the district, the veterinary department, so that the beneficiaries are trained, so that they understand what it means to raise goat in terms of management, in terms of health, in terms of feeding, in terms of general housing. All this will be done in support with the vets who are the sub-county.
The initiative, however, has not just been ring-fenced to goats as the sole initiative to benefit the needy. Confined in these boxes are croilers, bred from Entebbe Experimental Station. They are also part of the initiative to benefit the needy, including the youth.
Particularly, we are looking at the croiler, but soon we're also introducing the rainbow. The chicken grow fast, they eat less, they can survive in a hardy environment.
And we are going to also, because of the breed, the breed that we have here is not the breed that's been brought. So the few that have been brought will help in the society to transform the local breeds to a better breed that can generate and increase our income holes.
But are they enough?
They are not enough, and my appeal to the government and also to agree if they can increase the number of supply, because these are only catering a few groups. We have only 200 goats and 5,000 chicken, and this is totally not enough. You can see the demand from the people. So our Swiss, we could expect at least 4,000 goats and at least 20,000 chicken. That will be able to improve on the livelihood of the people in the society.
It is for this reason that Dr. Charles Lagu looks forward to having more financial support from government to implement this initiative further.
That is from July, and we think we'll roll out. This is just a pilot to launch this program, to launch these initiatives to support the youth, support the women, and this will be rolled to cover the whole country. So it's a national program.
It is hoped that 15 billion Uganda shillings will be invested in the project in the next financial year, with anticipation that more income will be generated for sustainability. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Karamoja sub-region leaders have expressed worry over the high rate at which the sub-region is losing land to grabbers. Land board chairpersons in the sub-region claim more than 30% of the land has been lost to non-residents increasing tensions due to the growing population. Now, this was during the flagging off of activities to mark the National Land Awareness Week in the sub-region. Philip Aguta has more on this.
Of late, Karamoja, like any other region in the country, has also been engulfed with the land conflicts. The leaders claim cases of land grabbing, both by elite in the area and the non-residents, are on increase. Moroto, Napak and Kabong districts are the most affected by the conflict.
They are increasing day and night in chaos. People are complaining. The investors are rushing in place without really giving any promise, any what and so on.
To make it worse, this land issue has become great in such a manner that even the forest, ecological aspect is getting out. And the current climate change, which is now key, is going to be a greater issue. It's already a greater issue to the Karamojons.
High cases of land conflicts in the area has been attributed to the discovery of various minerals in the area, communal land ownership system, and lack of knowledge of land laws and rights among the residents.
Those conflicts are very many. There are people who have money, and there are those elites who take the advantage of the vulnerability of these groups. And then, of course, they process their titles right from the headquarters from Kampala there, when these people are not aware, when they are not uniformed, and then at the end of the day, they just come down.
The leaders also queried the methodology used to give away land to investors, saying they sideline the input of the locals and their leaders.
Much has been grabbed. 36% of the Karamoja land is already in the hands of the government. So the local people who are supposed to be in the harbour land for digging, like Kidepo National Park, is the government. Wetland and the place which are for grazing. The remaining land, like the mountain area, the hill area, is where again the mineral is found in plenty. That's why people are saying, what is the government doing?
What's part on the land issue is that the people are not aware the value of land. How much does the land be sold at? Even at the district land board levels, there are no ground rates. We don't have them here. So it is also an issue that the ministry should start developing and issuing us with these documents so that we keep on updating year in, year out.
The leaders now hope the National Land Awareness Week being hosted in the sub-region will ably address the challenges surrounding land management and administration. The week's long activities is organized by Ministry of Lands, Participatory Ecological Land Use Management, Pelam Uganda, and other non-state land actors under the theme, Our Land, Our Future, securing land rights for socio-economic development.
Government and the civil society organizations, we join hands to enhance the land rights of the vulnerable people. And this time, we are in Karamoja and doing the Land Awareness Week. And these are districts that have huge land issues in Karamoja. We have issues concerning the mining, the minerals. We have issues of investors coming to Karamoja. Mining concessions are being signed, but at the local communities, their land rights is at stake in terms of their ownership.
It was very rare to see land being fenced in Karamoja sub-region 10 or 20 years ago. Now it has become common, like this one here, even 10 kilometers outside town. A clear indication that land has become a hot cake in the sub-region. A matter the locals want the government to intervene in once for all. For UBC TV News, I am Philip Aguta in Moroto District, Karamoja Sub-Region.
Soroti Catholic Diocese is seeking over 400 million shillings for the consecration of the new bishop, Reverend Father Joseph Echiru, on the 25th of May this year, replacing Bishop Emmanuel Obo, who is currently the Archbishop of Tororo Archdiocese. Chairman of Soroti Catholic Diocese Association, Dr. Godfrey Akeleng said that only 30% of the targeted budget has been achieved, and they expect thousands of Christians, including President Yoweri Museveni, to grace the function.
Our main purpose as organizing committee is to make sure that we provide a good function on that day. And we are looking for resources left and right, and we want to thank people of goodwill who have already granted us some good resources which are enabling us to have a function. But we continue to appeal to all people of goodwill to come forward and support us in different ways. You can give us anything in kind, also can give financial support.
But on the 22nd of this month of May, he will be received shortly after Mbale. He will be traveling to Soroti via Mbale. So at the border between Mbale and Bukeria districts, there's a place there known by the locals as Fika Salama. That's when there will be a convoy waiting for him. And they will start the journey into Soroti, but passing through the different parishes that are located along the road to Soroti. And in each of these parishes, he will be praying with the communities that will have gathered there, saying short prayers, and he blesses them, and the convoy moves on. When the convoy reaches Soroti, they will enter in prayer in the cathedral, and there will be a prayer of adoration, benediction, and blessing of the congregation that will have gathered there. So the homecoming really marks the beginning of the celebrations.
And with that, we take a quick break. We return with business news and much more. You're watching News Tonight.
Every dream has a challenging journey. Ours began in 1998 with a mission to drive the development of a robust communications sector in Uganda. We created structures to champion the dream. We've evolved, made discoveries, supported great minds, empowered Ugandans, and fostered a vibrant culture, enabling communication for all. Down the years, we've created memories and networks, uniting generations and building great partnerships. Together, we can go even further. UCC, celebrating 20 years of achievements.
The National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, invites the general public to review and scrutinize the Environmental and Social Impact Assessment Report for the proposed Kingfisher Development Project. The project involves the development of the Kingfisher oil field located in Chikube district and feeder pipeline transporting crude oil to the delivery point in Kabale in Hoima district. The major components of the project include oil production and water injection wells, central processing facility, flow lines, water obstruction station, feeder pipeline, and supporting infrastructure. Copies of the report are available at the following locations: written comments should be addressed to the Executive Director, National Environment Management Authority, Ginger Road, Kampala by 15th May 2019. NEMA, ensuring sustainable development.
Let's talk business. Uganda is, for the first time, hosting regulators of the aviation industry from the whole of the African continent here in the capital, Kampala. 31st extraordinary session of the experts from the African Civil Aviation Commission is expected to discuss and develop strategies for the future of this industry. The continent is on its path to full implementation of the Open Skies policy in line with the requirements of a single African air transport market. Let's take a look.
Africa is grappling to implement a single African air transport market. Policy this gathering of the continent's aviation regulators in the capital Kampala offers a platform to assess the implementation progress. Uganda the host of the African Civil Aviation Commission, is yet to sign.
In relation to cargo aircraft movements, there are no restrictions at all. All these are aimed at fully opening up of Uganda's airspace, which is well in line with the requirements of a single African air transport market.
Apparently, the country may consider signing the policy during the started review of the national aviation policy, supported by the revival of the national carrier, soon to commence service. The extraordinary meeting of the African Civil Aviation Commission, being held for first time in Uganda, is a platform where strategies and rules of the industry are determined beside the International Civil Aviation Organization.
Secretary of Africa for considering Uganda to host such an important meeting that is going to consider reports that will determine the future of Africa's aviation industry.
Uganda Civil Aviation Authority grasped the moment to highlight her remarkable achievements to urge the rest to follow suit.
About 8 African countries to have attained the standard ahead of the December 2019 deadline set for at least 60% of African states to have attained it.
Similarly, the country will host the International Civil Aviation Organization 6th African Indian Ocean Aviation Week. Onyango Jackson, Ubc TV.
Meanwhile, African engineers have called on their respective governments to consider awarding building and construction contracts only when funds are available. The chairman FIDIC group of African member associations, that engineer James Mwangi, decries continued borrowing by engineers to fund government contracts, which compromises quality infrastructure establishments. This was during the annual that's group of African member associations event conference, infrastructural conference rather, in Kampala, which was also graced by renowned Pan-Africanist Patrice Lumumba.
The African Agenda of 2063 highlights flagship projects that could drive the African Union's efforts towards energy and infrastructure development. These include the integrated high-speed train network to connect African capitals, the Grand Inga Dam project to transform Africa from traditional to modern energy sources.
Globalization is something that we cannot run away from. But the question is Africa being gobbled in the name of globalization? So we are assembled here today to ask ourselves whether going forward the consulting engineer is going to be a contributor to the development of Africa. And what is this thing that we describe as development or growth? What is it?
The establishment of a single African air transport market is also highlighted with the aim of ensuring intra-regional connectivity between the capital cities of Africa. The list could go on, but the more Africa dreams about such progress, the more the concerns of how Africa is rising.
And to those who are in the business and in the habit of assessing development by those visually very intrusive projects, Africa is rising. But the question is Africa rising at the pace that she ought to rise? And if she is rising, for whom is she rising? And if she is rising, how is she rising?
Despite infrastructure developments in the continent, Africa is yet to realize its potential, and one of the challenges to this is corruption.
Because it means that the funds that are being earmarked for projects are not being fully utilized for those projects. It means that projects are more expensive.
It is for similar reasons that Africans have to embrace and inculcate the values of patriotism and nationalism among upcoming professionals. This is proposed to avoid circumstances that could compromise people's morality and ethics during implementation of infrastructure projects.
One of the issues that have been raised in this conference is the awarding of contracts when funds are not available. In fact, some speakers say it has a bearing on corruption. Actually, some say behind every aspect of corruption in any contract, there is always a professional. What that means, I may not have the competence to explain, but someone else does.
We cannot just fund infrastructure projects and forget the social services, for example, the hospitals, the public servants' salaries, all sorts of other expenditure areas. So we compete for the little that we all have.
For those transactions to take place, for money to be lost, the process of executing those transactions involves professionals. And it is important for those professionals to act in an ethical manner to ensure that they seal loopholes of corruption.
Uganda is one of the African countries that have been at the forefront of promoting infrastructure and development.
2, 3, 4, go.
Recently commissioned infrastructures include Isimba Hydropower Dam, Entebbe Express Highway, New Source of the Nile Bridge, and Soroti Fruit Factory, among other industries. This is the position government looks forward to concretizing.
The industry creates the physical infrastructure that is central to every country's economic development through activities that provide business to suppliers, to manufacturers, to contractors.
In Nakasongola, I recently commissioned a wood processing plant that will create over 1,300 jobs in the country.
But as Uganda and the other African countries emphasize infrastructure development, one thing could be missing: participation by African professionals.
The day we wake up to that reality, the safer we are. That is why the English had this beautiful saying, let sleeping dogs lie. So we are sleeping, and we are being allowed to lie. And we are being hypnotized into even greater sleep and slumber, to dream even further. But I'm telling us, if Africa is to realize our dream, we must wake up.
All this was made public during the 26th Annual Gama Infrastructure Conference, an event held in Kampala, Uganda's capital. It was held under the theme, The Role of Consulting Engineers in Driving Growth in African Economies. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Ramaphosa has vowed to clean the African National Congress ANC of all bad tendencies in a bid to end corruption. In a victory speech in Johannesburg, he thanked voters and said they had sent a clear message. Ramaphosa said that the party's lowest ever score of 58% was due to voters expressing their frustration. Now, he promised he would not choose leaders who work to fill their own pockets. The ANC has been in power since Nelson Mandela was elected following the end of the white minority rule 25 years ago. A struggling economy, corruption and mass unemployment, particularly among young people, led to ANC's reduced majority in this election. President Ramaphosa said he would address these concerns. Now, Ramaphosa took over from Jacob Zuma in 2017, who was forced to resign following a series of corruption scandals. He denies any wrongdoing. In the world of sports, the Uganda World Tennis Tour circuit has entered its second weekend, with players still contesting to get a share of the $15,000 prize that's at stake for this three-week event. The second week at the Lugogo Tennis Club has started with qualifiers in which Uganda's two representatives fell. Edward Birungi lost to India's Siva Turu 6-4, 6-0, while Sawale Sebulime was humbled by Germany's Harry Derry, that's 6-2, 6-0. Qualification climaxes on Tuesday with the top 8 entering the main draw that starts on Wednesday. For the quest of being alive by Wednesday, Pakistan's Muzammil Murtaza that's India's Kumar Santel, Chile's Flores Fernandez takes on Germany's Philip Dittmer. India's Taja Shakula faces compatriot Rishi Reddy, while Kenya's Shahil Kotecha must negotiate India's Suresh Gokul. Others in the qualification hustle are Lithuania's Julius Verijonas against Brazilian Marcus and Pakistani Ahmed Chowdhury facing India's Siva Aturu. The 8 qualifiers will join the main draw of 32 players, inclusive of 2 Ugandan players, David Oringa and Frank Tayebwa. The 2 Ugandans are in as wildcards for the cash-laden tournament, whose winner bags $2,160 while all main draw entries are guaranteed a starting kitty of $148. Uganda Boxing Federation has started its training camp for boxers that will contest the 2019 All-Africa Games in Morocco. Through those games, those games are prestigious, the federation targets much better than that. That's with sight on the 2020 Olympic Games. The full squad expected in the non-residential camp is 60, 44 of whom, including 14 girls, have respected the first day.
We have just started our first day of training. We shall have trials after 3 weeks to select those boxers who represent Uganda in the qualifiers. That's for the Olympic Games, which is doing sometimes in 2020. But have All African Games, that's the qualifiers for the Olympic Games. That's in August. But I think boys are ready. We tested them today for physicals. We have not gone deep into our training, but as a sign of fitness, at least they are okay. We have 8 qualifying weights in the Olympics. So we need, because we have 10 categories altogether, but we need only 8. That's why I'm saying that light fly, 49 kilograms, will come up to 52. Also 50, bantamweight is no longer there. We shall go up to 57. But boys are ready and they are responding nicely, and I think with time we shall have a good team ready for the tournament. We just need to, this is qualifiers for the Olympic Games. That's the first day. 1 has been not bad, but with time I think we shall see, because we have a lot of boxers. We shall have elimination after 3 days, then we sort ourselves out with the other coaches.
And the Football Association has not rested on its laurels of playing excellence manifested through back-to-back AFCON qualification, but continues to build partnerships to grow the sport. The latest has been a high-profile visit by a team of the UEFA Assist.
Uganda is set to benefit from collaboration between the Federation of Uganda Football Associations and UEFA Assist. UEFA Assist is an international program that addresses the needs of national associations and confederations outside Europe. This they do through education and knowledge sharing, development of youth football, and support of infrastructure development, among others. The UEFA Assist delegation in Uganda included Eva Pasquire, who is a football operations specialist, and a former Scottish Football Association CEO, Stuart Regan.
We spent a few days talking to different stakeholders of the football family, just trying to find out what's going on in the football in your country. And based on their input, we had then organized a leadership retreat with the Executive Committee and General Secretary for 2 days to analyze what we have heard, what information was received, and to discuss about the measures to be taken for the future.
They met several stakeholders in Uganda, including the former president and CEO, Edgar Watson.
Rising out of the period they've been here, they've happened to give us a feedback from the stakeholders. We've happened to deliberate about issues concerning the game, and of course a lot is going on concerning the level of the game, and we are very excited that whatever we've discussed in this short period is actually in line with the vision of FIFA to be the #1 football nation in Africa on and off the field.
FIFA top executive believe that such and many other exchanges with members such as these is what may yield better football results both on and off the field. John Barnes, Centum, reporting.
And with that, let's quickly take a look at our top stories for the night. Education and Sports Ministry strides towards quality education. Veterans set to assemble heavy solar panels. The civil society organizations tasked an electoral commission to present electoral reforms. While African aviation regulators meet in Kampala, and Ugandans fail qualifiers as World Tennis Tour continues. And that does sum it up. It's always a pleasure to have your company. On sign language, Magala Mohammed. I am Roda Ngonzi. Have a lovely night.
The influence of the rain belt, which is aligned over our country. That is why various parts of the country are reporting rainfall, like Jinja reported 47.6 millimeters, whereas Soroti, Kampala and Entebbe also reported rainfall by 9 a.m. this morning. I'm St. Alex Kim from the Weather Center with the weather forecast. Tomorrow morning, we do expect parts around the Lake Victoria Basin to have some chances of some light showers, whereas the rest of the country is expected to have sunny intervals. Well into the afternoon, we do expect the northern and western part of the country to be quite active with rainfall, whereas the rest of the country is expected to have sunny intervals. Because of this kind of weather, temperatures are really cold at 29 degrees Celsius in Karamoja region, Entebbe and Kampala 26, and we are forecasting 23 degrees Celsius in Kawale Highlands. Elsewhere across the globe, we are forecasting for Nairobi, Kigali, as well as New Delhi, chances of rainfall, whereas Washington is expected to have sunny intervals at a daytime high of 17 degrees Celsius as a maximum. That is all we had time for. Stay tuned to UBC. I remain St. Alex Kim.